Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic guest for you today, Grant. He's a real estate investor and he's got 8 million assets under management. He's also come out with his recent book, The Unlikely Investor. He's a bread and butter guest. Real estate is no stranger to the audience. And so, Grant, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, like I said, the audience really loves real estate and talk about who you are, briefly and your journey and how the audience can benefit from your expertise.
Yeah, you bet. Like I said, my name is Grant Francke. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, so southeast Nebraska. I've got a wife, Flora. We've been married 15 years today, actually, and then two kids, 10 and 8. Started getting into real estate in 2016. My reason for getting into real estate is I had a fairly good union paying job as a railroad conductor, but it took too much time away from my family. It took too much of the weekends, the holidays, the birthdays that I'd miss. So I started investing in real estate as a way to get out of that railroad job. I was able to do that in 2019, had enough cash flow to coming in that we were able to leave the job. And I've been investing in past or actively investing in real estate since then.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to talk about real estate as an asset class and kind of the profits because I do a lot of analysis, just what have I done and how can I do better in the future? So one thing we talk about is this idea is real estate really a good investment? Because for example, everybody says real estate is a passive investment and I own properties too, and it is not passive. Like you have to really keep maintain it and even tenants have more rights than we as owners and now you have climate change. We just had Hurricane Beryl and just like insurance premiums are just out the just crazy expensive. So there's no profits anymore, so is it still good investment?
Yeah, that's one thing I talk about in my book. Like real estate is the farthest thing from being passive. There's nothing passive about it unless you're investing just in a syndication and you're hoping to get some returns at some point. It's really tough right now. For us too, in the Midwest, insurance has gone up crazy with the hailstorms and tornadoes. So that's definitely eaten into a lot of the profits. I'm a very conservative underwriter, so I do not buy stuff unless it cash flows from day one, and I have a plan to get it to cash flow even more. So we're not getting hit with like negative income at this point because we underwrite so strictly. There's a lot of people that's been buying stuff the last couple of years that I'm wondering how they're doing now, overpaying at 6-7% interest, and then their insurance rates double after that. So to me, it's all about the buy. You make your money when you buy, and having that conservative underwriting is going to help you set that standard.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have a lot of uh pressures towards profit making in real estate because now you have like real estate appreciation, which a lot of people are getting priced out of. You mentioned interest rates, mentioned premiums. It's like it's almost like it sounds like there's deals out there, but it's harder and harder. Whereas like in 2008 to like 2018, it was really awesome. There's just so much deals and but now it's kind of like more harder. So the next question I have for you is because you mentioned passive, like a syndication, but a syndication can go bust too, and then like you're hearing more and more people just going to jail for fraud and white
Yeah.
collar crime and all this. But so kind of talk about because you built an impressive 8 million portfolio. Congratulations. What were some
Thanks.
of the key strategies and milestones that help you scale your real estate investments?
Yeah, a vast majority of my portfolios come from off-market deals. Um, I don't buy a whole lot on the market. Real estate is really it's about a building, but it's a relationship business. So it's all about making the relationship with those sellers. And we do selective mailing, we do that sort of stuff, but we're all about building relationships with sellers. So hey, when you're ready to sell, like we're gonna make it an easy process. We're not gonna take advantage of you. We just want to take that property that you have been taking care of for 10, 20, even 30 years and we're going to take it over when you're ready to be done. We'll be ready to do that. So all majority of our portfolios come from that way, just building relationships with people. And then once you have a good transaction with them, you never know who they know. They might refer you a few more sellers and you can keep growing your portfolio that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I commonly hear is real estate is is a relationship business, and especially with the realtors. One thing I have a question about is because recently now brokers' commissions are cut by 50% because of the a recent lawsuit against I think it was the NAR.
Yeah.
So talk about how that's going to impact the buying and selling of real estate.
Yeah, on the residential side, we don't deal with that a whole lot, so I don't know the impacts of that.
Yeah.
We're seeing brokers in our area. It's not affecting them too much yet, so that's gonna be a long-term thing to see how that shakes out. And once it goes all to court again, and everybody gets their fair share. But I do think, it could have some impact, but I think that's a long road thing, and I'm not sure on how it's going to impact the next couple months. Like I said, we mainly stick with off-market stuff, so we don't have to deal with the brokers and realtors too much.
Oh, interesting. And so sounds like you're mostly in just I love this idea of residential. I don't know if you can comment on so for example, what I've been talking to other investors is that the real estate market is suffering, but there are pockets and niches that either location wise or like sector wise that are doing well. Like for example, like industrial, or I heard like data centers are actually kind of coming or become more popular. Can you comment on that, or I don't know if you have that
Yeah,
experience?
so we're mainly residential. We've got two commercial buildings as well that we got in a package deal. That's something that we're keeping our eye on as well. I'm making sure I'm staying in tune with the commercial side. And like I said, industrial's just been huge. This industrial flex space where you can just build a metal box and then divide it out that way. As a guy with 104 tenants, that sounds really nice to have just a metal box with 100 with some people in there. So that seems like a way more passive way of going about it.
Yeah.
I think just like everything, you're gonna have your booms and your busts. Everybody's building industrial right now. Everybody's all about flex space. So I assume in 2 or 3 years, we're probably gonna see that equilibrium happen where that's probably gonna be too much supply and not enough demand, and you'll see that way out. As far as the commercial buildings, I'm not afraid of buying a commercial building right now. We're just really making sure they have strong tenants. They have those anchor tenants by them that can always keep them busy and keep them full.
Yeah, yeah. The other question I have is because as a real estate investor, you're technically you're an entrepreneur, and so for this business entrepreneurship podcast, I'm always curious what sets apart the top performers such as yourself. So what mindset do you have when it comes to real estate? Like what's your approach, and what shifts have been crucial to your success?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm always a big like mindset guy, like having the right mindset. For me in the beginning, it was knowing why I was doing it. So knowing my why of the reason I was investing in real estate, and that was to spend more time with my kids and my wife. I wanted to get out of the railroad. So I knew times were going to be tough, but knowing my why had a huge help getting that baseline set for when things did go wrong. Because if you own real estate, you know things are going to go wrong. Toilets are going to break, pipes are going to freeze, you're going to get a fire, things are going to happen. But knowing your why, knowing the reason why you're doing it helps you get through all those tough times. So that was a huge mindset set shift for me, was knowing like why I'm doing this. And when things got tough, I could look at my kids and be like, all right, this is why I'm doing this. It's not that bad. It's better than being at the railroad. Life is good here. We're going to make it through it.
Yeah, yeah, I have this like it's similar because like when I had like my my first couple properties, like whenever like disasters, and it's just like so painful. But then if you look back like 10 years later, it's like, yeah, it's actually, worked out okay. You just gotta the other question is most investors and entrepreneurs prioritize self-education, and that was key in your journey. Can you mention any resources you use to learn? Kind of books or podcasts or audiobooks, just for the audience.
Yeah, you bet. So, Bigger Pockets podcast has had a big influence on me. That's been a huge podcast. I would just listen. I turned my car into a classroom everywhere I was driving. I'll listen to a Bigger Pockets podcast back and forth. A big book for mindset for me was Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I'm sure a majority of people have heard of. That one, like, I've never read a book and felt like it was written for me. I'm like, this is like speaking right to me. So that one was a huge one for me.
Yeah.
And then anything by Ken McElroy, I like him. I think he does a good job. And then Brandon Turner's been a huge influence on my investing as well. I was lucky enough he wrote the forward for my book, so that was pretty honoring to have that happen.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2002, it was like all those years of schooling and education just went out the door because like that one book, which was like $10 at the time, and it was like explained everything that
Yeah.
was going on, just like, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I was like, yeah, this, but and so, you've achieved significant financial success. What are your current goals and plans? I mean, you obviously could probably, retire and, hang out at the beach with your family, especially with this real estate market. What are your plans for the future?
Yeah, it's all about controlled growth right now. We're not gonna go out and stick our necks out to get a Class D property that cash flows $300 a month. We're very controlled growth. We're sitting on a lot of cash, not a lot, but we're sitting on cash, just waiting for good deals to come. I never overpay. I know I've missed out on a ton of deals in the last 8 years by not buying it because it didn't pencil out at day one. But I
Uh-huh.
also know I slept a lot better because I knew every single one of my deals, when I closed on them, they cash flowed immediately. So those are the deals that we look at. We're just kind of sitting, waiting for good deals to come back. Things are starting to pencil out. We've got a few offers out right now, which is exciting. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. So we're just kind of controlled growth and waiting for some deals to come.
Yeah. The other question, kind of two follow-up questions, is this era of interest rates, and it seems like other countries and nations are starting to drop the interest rates, the interest rate cycle. It's kind of peaked. And then United States, I don't know for what reason, continues to keep the rates elevated. I think it's actually for some sort of economic warfare against the other countries. But so it sounds like you're not interest rate sensitive because you're basically buying things that that are just fundamentally sound.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on just kind of people that are first starting out in this really lackluster environment?
Yeah, I wouldn't. My suggestion would be don't buy hoping for it cash flowing when the interest rates go down because we don't know what's going to happen. Like it could be higher for way longer. They could drop them soon. Our strict underwriting, we just want it if it cash flows today at 8% interest, fantastic. So if
Uh,
it's 8% interest, well, the whole time we hold it, we're great. But if rates go down to 6% in a couple of years, we can refinance and it'll be an even better one. But I would suggest not buying just assuming rates are going to go down. That's hope, and hope is not a strategy. That's just hoping it works out.
Hopium, yeah, I
Yeah,
like
hopium.
that. Hopium is not a strategy. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, the other question I have is, how does climate change factor into your risk analysis? Because now you have to really consider, the effect of floods or hurricanes, tornadoes, fires. How does that factor in when you're deciding to purchase a property?
Yeah, so where we invest in the middle of the country, we obviously don't have to worry about the hurricanes. Floods aren't as bad unless you live by a river. But we have seen that with hail, tornadoes, all that stuff has been a lot more worse. The winds have been worse. So it just reflects in our insurance premiums. We're staying on top of our insurance. So if something does happen, we are covered.
Uh-huh.
But luckily, we don't live in an area that we have to worry about the bad hurricanes coming in or anything. We get the remnants of it with a little bit of rain, but the big hurricanes aren't a big deal for us. But the wind and the hail has been a massive thing the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of real estate investors, they're starting to divest into uh more other types of investments as opposed to, like I said, real estate is a great traditional asset class.
Hmm.
But now because of all of these problems, they're starting to look into other investments. I don't know if you're looking into that or if you're just focused purely on real estate, or if you can share, I don't know if you're I'm just curious for the audience.
Yeah, no, we're mainly real estate people. I don't. I'm very laser focused. If I get shiny object syndrome, it gets pretty ugly. So I just try to stay in my lane. This is
Yeah,
what I'm doing, and this is our bread and butter. We stick with it.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And I know we have kind of like 5 more minutes. For just, a lot of doctors there, they're like they've always had this real estate bug, but they've never taken the plunge. And I don't think now is a good time, but start, with the resources that you recommended. Um, they could start educating themselves. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out, and what are important things they should be focusing on, should be looking for, so that they don't get burned, like, for example, in 2008 or other times?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my first one will go back to like knowing your why. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it just because you've seen people on Instagram do it, or you want to be a real estate investor? Like that's fine, but when things go wrong, it's going to be quite frustrating for you.
Yeah,
So know your why, know why you're doing it. Second is start with the end in mind. So if you're going to start buying properties, don't just do it on a whim and be like, oh, I like this, I like this. Start with the end. Like, what do you want this to look like in 10 years? Start building that foundation out, start doing that correctly. And then if you're going to manage, because I manage all properties myself. So if you're
yeah,
going to do that, also start with the end in mind. Start with your automation, start with your processes, get that all set up now so you don't get frustrated and burn out down the road.
yeah. I really admire you when you say you self-manage, because I self-managed my early properties, and it just got to be just so to be so painful, and and now, even now, it's gotten worse, but now I have property managers, which take a huge load off of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know you just wrote a book, and so talk about that, and how it can benefit the audience, how they can find it. It's coming out, releasing soon.
Yeah, it's titled The Unlikely Investor. It's out now on Amazon. The ebook just launched, so it's like 99 cents for a little while, which is really cheap for there's a lot of information in there. But it's kind of my story with like how I went from my well-paying union job into full-time real estate investing. I go through mindset, goal setting. I'm really big in that stuff. And then the back half is just nuts and bolts of real estate investing, how to set up your processes, how to set up your systems to make it the least stressful as you possibly can. One of my quotes I love is like, if your system or if you're unhappy, your system's broken. Something's wrong in there, and then go in there and fix that. So I'm a really big systems and processes guy. So I've got a lot of that in the book as well.
Yeah, I love that. I really enjoyed my conversation with you, and I love connecting with entrepreneurs and investors and sharing it with the audience. And how can they find you on socials, follow you, reach out to you, and so on?
Yeah, you bet. I'm on Instagram at grant.francke, Frankke. That's really where I'm most active at. I'm also on Facebook. You can look me up on Facebook as well.
Yeah. And for all the audience, let's thank Grant for coming on and sharing his amazing journey, story, and success. And be sure to give his socials a like and follow. Check out his book on Amazon. Leave a 5-star review. And thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate